welcome you all. You're going to meet today 3 fantastic candidates. Okay, guys, I don't know about you, but for me, we are the luckiest people on earth. We don't have to travel anywhere. The candidates come to us, and we get to see them and meet them and hear them face to face, driving or walking 5, 10, 15 minutes. Now, that's being lucky. And today, we are extremely lucky to have, and fortunate, to have here 3 superb Democratic candidates with us. Orange County Supervisor Katrina Foley. Yay. Orange County Superior Court Judge candidate Michelle Bell. And Laguna Woods City Council candidate Annie McCary. Woohoo! Now, at the end, when the 3 candidates finish to talk, we're going to be hearing our own Jonathan Adler discussing the ballot measures and a brief video sent to us specifically for our club from Senator Alex Padilla. The first candidate will be Supervisor Katrina Foley. She will have a total of 15 minutes to speak and take questions. There are index cards in your tables, and if you have any questions for her, please write your question, and then either Jonathan or somebody else will pick up those index cards. Jonathan will run around, and then Jean will ask those questions, and your candidate will be hopefully very happy to answer. So let me introduce you very briefly to Katrina Foley. And you all know her, I know that. But how many people do you know that is a community leader, a successful businesswoman, a working mom, an attorney, and one that was elected as Orange County's newest supervisor in 2022? One. She served 4 years as Costa Mesa's mayor and previously was on the Costa Mesa City Council for 12 years. Supervisor Foley's accomplishments while in office cover many areas, including affordable housing, homelessness, protecting the environment, public safety, infrastructure improvements, supporting public schools, and fiscal responsibility. Please welcome Supervisor Foley.
Hey, it's so great to be here. I love coming to Laguna Woods, and I can't wait to represent you after November. I'm Katrina Foley. I'm your county supervisor, and I'm going to push this down because that's not necessary. And, you know, thank you, Jeannie, for sharing that quiz and that fact. Now, another fact that I want you to all know is that while we all support the Voters' Choice Act, right? Raise your hand if you think that was a good act. Yes, encouraging voting and voter engagement. That is what democracy is all about. We travel around the world to try to spread that to other countries where they are not as free and democratic. Guess who voted against that act? My opponent, Pat Bates. She voted no in the state Senate. So this is loud, I'm sorry. And so really, I think what is very clear is there is no question the difference between the two of us. One, I talk to all the voters. I'm out talking to Democrats, no party preference, Republicans, focusing on the issues that bring us all together and that we as a collective community care about. Issues like protecting our coast. We worked very hard in the oil spill crisis to try to make sure that we held the oil companies accountable for the spill. We got all of the expenses to the county reimbursed and then some, because we got penalties up to $1.5 million on top of the $1 million that we got reimbursed. That's the work that we've done. My opponent, she's taken more than $50,000 from the oil companies and voted against their bills. Are you trying to tell me something? Okay, sorry. Is that better? Okay. And then we have also, we're working on addressing homelessness and mental health. This month is Suicide Prevention Month. My office has an advisory program with our veterans, and we are working on a unique program that is peer-to-peer veteran supports to prevent suicide of some of our more isolated veterans that are at risk. We also know that in the LGBTQ community, especially amongst our youth, we are seeing dramatic increases in suicidal tendencies, and we have to address that immediately as a community. That's work that I'm doing. That's work that collectively, as a community, we all care about. The work that we're also doing as it relates to affordable housing, we care, I think, deeply that we want to make sure that not only do we have housing for all of you in your golden years, but we also have housing for like my boys who are 22 and 24, so that they can continue to live in Orange County, because eventually I want them to take care of me, right? But we need to make sure we have a whole continuum of housing, workforce housing, housing for our teachers. My husband's a teacher. We're fortunate to have bought our home early on before housing was skyrocketing here in Orange County. We also want to make sure that we are protecting, the taxpayers in terms of not allowing a bunch of cronyism at the County Board of Supervisors. It's an $8.8 billion budget, and we vote on millions of dollars in contracts every single meeting. Now, I have been the one to call attention to some of these, what you call no-bid contracts that don't have a justification for them being no bid. It's better for the taxpayers to get 3 bids, go through the process, unless it's some kind of unique specialty or a long-time contractor that is doing a good job. Otherwise, it's really just to the detriment of the taxpayers to continue to just do these no-bid contracts. So I've been shining a light on that. I've been shining a light on, while I support clean energy and making sure that we have a sustainable future here in Orange County and we have a climate action plan, our Orange County Power Authority is got all kinds of accusations of corruption and problems with the financing, and so we're doing an audit at my request of the Orange County Power Authority. So yes, you're welcome. So the $8.8 billion budget is real. It covers everything from our beaches, our harbors, our Orange County Sheriff's Department, our courthouse, our law libraries, of which I'm on the board. It covers the roads, the transportation programs. We sit on the Orange County Transportation Authority, and so we have influence there. It covers mental health services, public health, homelessness, and a variety of housing for our most indigent, most vulnerable community members. It's a very serious job, and it takes a person who is willing, one, to do the work, but also to listen, even to people who don't agree with you, come to find solutions and compromises and work together. We have to be able to work together to support our overall community. My opponent is extremely partisan. She is unwilling to work with people across the aisle. She comes across as very moderate, but if you look at her voting record, she has an F as it relates to women's reproductive health. She has voted against every single women's reproductive health bill that has come before her. She has an F as it relates to LGBTQ communities. She has voted against every single gay rights bill that has come before her, including the right to marry the person you love. And it is not reflective of the values of this district. This district is much more mainstream than that. All of you live in this district, and I'm sure you don't agree with that. So we really have a unique moment in time here in Orange County to win this election, and we would have the majority be a Democrat majority on the Board of Supervisors for the first time in county history. So let me just tell you about the cities that are in the district so that you can share with your friends who live in other areas. It's Costa Mesa, where I live, Newport Beach, UCI, Shady Canyon, all that area of Irvine south of the 405 to Irvine Spectrum, Laguna Beach, all the lagunas, Laguna Woods, Laguna Hills, Laguna Niguel, Aliso Viejo, Dana Point, San Juan Capistrano, San Clemente, Ladera Ranch, Rancho Mission Viejo, Coto de Cazo, and Las Flores, and Wagon Wheel. It is a giant district. Yes, there are 420,000 voters in the district. It's the largest number of voters of all 5 offices for the Board of Supervisors. They created this district because they thought it would be something I could not win. So let's prove them wrong. So right now, what we're doing, and I want to thank all of you for your amazing volunteerism, but what we're doing is we're trying to gather volunteers who can phone bank, who can donate. If you can donate, there's envelopes in the back, you know, $5, $10. If you've got a little bit more wealth, we'll take it. But we are down to the wire. It's 20 days before the ballots drop. And in 20 days, people will be able to start voting. And we just need to make sure that people are voting for Democrats this cycle. It is critical because what we're seeing on the other side is extremism that does not reflect our values. And so, and it's a horrible period in time that we must engage more urgently, in my opinion. You're going to hear about Prop 1. I support Prop 1. Please vote for Prop 1 to protect a woman's right to an abortion and to birth control as well. So I'm going to take some questions, but I just want to tell you I am somebody who works tirelessly to make sure that I am advocating for the needs of our community, and my door is always open. I even advocate for our little furry friends. If you didn't know, we have an animal adoption waiver program. Yes, some of you know about it. And we were able to, I have a report. In the last 9 days, we have helped the animal shelter adopt 275 animals out of the animal shelter. It's very important because we have capacity for 400 dogs, but we had 700 dogs. We have capacity for 200 cats. We had 400 cats. So we really need to get those animals to loving homes. So thank you all who all participated. So I'm going to take some questions now. You got questions?
Okay, so we have actually several questions on the topic of homelessness, and that topic, as you know, covers not only homelessness but affordable housing. So one question says, what can the county really do about affordable housing?
Let me tell you, we can do a lot. The county right now, each office has our own independent budgets. So in my office, I have a $14 million budget. This year, I invested $1.2 million in building 43 apartment units for women who are survivors of domestic violence and who are homeless. That's the county helping with affordable housing. We also partner with a variety of different affordable housing nonprofits to build senior housing, to build student housing, to build other workforce housing. In Santa Ana, I have been leading an effort to not only just build affordable housing that's for rent, but affordable housing apartments where you can have an owner equity interest in the apartment unit. So you can create some generational wealth and you can have some equity to be able to buy your next home, which is what our next generation, they're really missing out on. So that's something I'm working on. Additionally, I have put forward a proposal and which would be 0 interest loans for first-time home buyers and for our public safety employees as a recruitment tool.
Okay, great. Another related question goes specifically to homelessness or the unhoused. A two-part question. What is the Board of Supervisors doing to address the unhoused population? And the other part of the question is, given that there are so many different reasons that people are homeless, we like to, certain people like to say, well, they're all drug addicts, but we know differently. So because there are so many different reasons for homelessness, how do we address that?
Okay, homelessness is a multi-pronged problem, and you're right, there's a lot of reasons why people are homeless. So what we did is we did a survey, a first of its kind, where we went out and we interviewed individuals experiencing homelessness on the street. And we did sort of a summary of what are the reasons why people are homeless. And there were many reasons. Lost relationship, and then they had to move out and they had no home. Domestic violence. Drug addiction is a reason. Mental health disabilities, a reason. We have 241 veterans who are living homeless on our streets, and to me, that is unacceptable. So we have an increase in homelessness in our senior population, veterans, as well as in our very young people. So what are some things other than what I've already described that we're working on? Last Tuesday, we voted for a program where every person that is experiencing homelessness on the street will have a case manager and a case worker that will try to work with that individual to get them into shelter or permanent supportive housing or maybe back with their family. And then that case manager won't just leave that person wherever at the shelter. They will continue to follow up with that person until they have stabilized. Because one of the things we've learned is that if you just leave a person and they don't have a support network, they don't have family members, they don't have people to care for them, they will fall back out into homelessness again. So we need to get people stabilized before we let them out. Okay, I've got 30 seconds. The other area that we've been working on in my office is we spent our budget to do investigative hearings and do an audit of all of the expenses being spent on homelessness. $1.6 billion we spend. So what I have discovered is that those funds aren't being used efficiently. It's not working. Whatever this system we have in place at the county, it isn't working. So we're mixing it up. We're trying to encourage our Office of Care and Coordination to do things differently. There's a lot of different options on the table, and it's a priority for my office because whether you live in a beautiful gated community in South County or in Santa Ana, homelessness affects all of us. So I really appreciate the time today to talk to you and the questions. Know that I'm always available to answer any questions. You can go to my website, katrinafoley.com, and that's on the campaign side. I encourage you to sign up for our official newsletter. It's on our Board of Supervisors page. We have a lot of information. And then before I go, I haven't got to meet Ann yet, but I want to give a big shout out for Michelle Bell, who is my endorsed candidate for judge. As a 25-year attorney, I can tell you we need someone like Michelle to be on our Orange County bench. So thank you all so much. I hope to see you all soon.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, there you have it. Now you know why we're voting for Ms. Foley. Wow. And next, we have a second star. I'm so pleased to introduce to you Ms. Michelle Bell. Michelle was appointed by judges as a Superior Court Commissioner. She serves our public in different courtroom assignments at the Central Justice Center and is assigned to the Criminal Division. She also presides over felony hearings where law enforcement and civilian witnesses testify before trial. Previously, she worked as a deputy public defender at the Orange County Public Defender's Office and was assigned to the felony trial team. If elected, of course, when elected, Michelle would become the first Black Latina judge in Orange County. Michelle will have 10 minutes to speak and take questions. Please welcome Michelle Bell.
Thank you for having me today. I appreciate the opportunity to speak in front of you. Most people don't know what a Superior Court Commissioner is, and so I was selected by judges. It's a very thorough vetting process to become a bench officer here in Orange County. And it's analogous to being appointed by the governor as a judge. So I was selected by judges. Previously, I worked at the Orange County Public Defender's Office for over 13 years, and I worked with the most underrepresented population here in the county. You know, I had such a good experience being exposed to people from all different walks of life, all the way from someone who had no home to someone who was highly educated but unemployed and couldn't afford their own counsel. So I had the opportunity to try very serious violent felony matters, but I also had the opportunity to work with our mental health population in Orange County. And for a period of time, I was the liaison who worked with county council to encourage people who had been incarcerated due to their mental health issues to engage with healthcare agency. So our collaborative courts and the services that we offer here in Santa Ana at our collaborative courtroom, I'm very familiar with and am very interested in developing further. I want to be a judge because as a commissioner, I do a lot of the busy work of the court. So, for example, when I first came on, I was the arraignment bench officer for all of the arrests in Orange County. We have a centralized jail arraignment court, and everyone who got arrested would see me. I was the first stop as the face of the bench. And so sometimes I would arraign literally 120 people a day and make decisions in regards to bail. And that says a lot about the faith that the bench has entrusted in me to make these decisions, because if I don't make the right decision, that directly impacts our community. So public safety is very important to me, and I feel very honored to be making these decisions on behalf of our community. But as a commissioner, I do a lot of the busy work, and I want to be able to make impactful decisions for our community for an extended period of time. I want to preside at family law proceedings, for example, and make decisions that are going to affect families. I want to make decisions that affect parental rights, because I have a background that gives me a lot of experience in some of the issue at play with that, and I'm very well aware of the services that our county offers. I want to even be able to make decisions in a civil courtroom that affect parties and litigation that's ongoing, that affects businesses, employment, and labor relations matters. But I'm looking at a 20-year career, and I want to be able to help and bring my background and my experience to the community. As it was said before, I'm the first Afro-Latinx bench officer here in Orange County, and I feel that the landscape of our bench is changing, and it's important because it just helps provide a diversity of perspective. When I start my day, I speak with a lot of other bench officers, and we talk about what's going on in our courtrooms. We talk about the decisions that we're making, not to influence one another, but it helps kind of set the tone and share experiences and perspectives that I think help makes our bench better. And so that's why I'm doing this. You know, this opportunity presented itself. I became a commissioner a little over a year ago, and it was an opportunity for me to give back even more as a public servant. Just as an aside, I feel that now that I'm campaigning, a lot of people don't know who to vote for when it comes to a judge candidate. It's a down ballot race. People don't know anything about the judges. There's just a lack of information. So I have a website. It's bell4judge.com, F-O-R. I'm going to make sure everyone leaves with some materials here today. But I'm endorsed by over 50 judges, including all of the supervising judges from our North, Harbor, West, and Central Justice Center. The assistant presiding judge, who's going to be the presiding judge in January, is behind my campaign. I'm also endorsed by a lot of public safety officials, our sheriff, Don Barnes, a lot of local chiefs, our firefighters association, and PORAC, which represents over 70,000 law enforcement officers here within the state of California. So I have this variety of endorsement and support because people trust me to make decisions, and I hope you do as well. And I'll leave the rest of my time open to questions, if anyone has any.
So we have a few assorted questions. If anybody has more, Jonathan will pick them up and bring them up to the front. One question is, how does being a public defender help with your job as a judge?
That's a great question. I understand a lot about others' inability to have access to certain resources. For example, if you're a single mother and you come into my courtroom and you bring your children with you because you have no child care, I understand those dynamics, and I can assist with directing you to children's chambers or just being a little bit more flexible. You know, typically that wasn't maybe something that was understood. I understand what it's like when someone's homeless and they can't afford to pay certain fines and fees, and I need to make a finding that the law allows me to waive certain fines and fees or divert cases into our collaborative courts to assist. I understand that there are mental health programs and resources available to a lot of people, more so than someone who has been in more of a prosecutor role or a civil lawyer. And so I'm able to make decisions and find the right disposition that's going to help be more rehabilitative when those circumstances would call for it.
Okay, another type of question. What do you think about cash bail? Should it be eliminated?
That's a great question. As a bench officer, I can't speak to certain things that are issues that are unresolved. What I can tell you is how I implement the law, because since I'm a commissioner now, I have to comply with certain judicial canons and ethics. So it's problematic when you're running for election, but when I look to someone's individual situation, there are a lot of less restrictive alternatives I can implement if it's appropriate. So number one, public safety. I look to see what the charges are. I look to see what the underlying circumstances related to the offense are. I look at someone's criminal background, and I have a pretrial sentencing department that helps give me recommendations. So I have a lot of resources, and I have a prosecutor in my courtroom that's telling me information I need to know. And so if it's appropriate, and if the community won't be at risk for me releasing someone on less restrictive conditions, I can make those findings. I can have them released on GPS monitoring. I can have them begin programming in regards to drug treatment and show proof at every subsequent court date. I can have them report to a probation officer in certain circumstances while their matter is pending. I can issue certain restraining orders or protective orders. So there's a lot of things at play. And the legislature has had a shift. They want the default to be what are the less restrictive conditions. But given my background in criminal law and all the things that I've seen over the years, I feel that my experience and my judgment is something that's going to benefit the community because I understand a lot of the gray, but I also understand when public safety needs to be protected, and I make those decisions.
Okay, I think we have time for one more question, and this is, do you believe that juveniles should be tried as adults?
That's also a very good question where I can't give a specific answer. The legislature has created a change in the law, and so before juveniles were allowed to be tried as adults, and I actually represented juveniles when I was a public defender who were tried as adults. There's been a lot of change in our legislation, and so the court looks to different factors, and they try and keep juveniles in the juvenile system as much as they can because of things related to juvenile brain development. So apologize, I can't speak to specific things related to that and factors. However, I can assure you that when it's time, I make the decisions based on what the law allows me to do with public safety as number one, and then go from there. Thank you.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, don't you feel a lot better knowing which people will be representing us? Oh, we can breathe again. And wouldn't you love to have the opportunity to sit with these 3 stars and ask them a lot more questions and get to know them better and better? Well, I guess once they're doing the job that we want them to do, we're going to be knowing them better and better. Now I want to introduce you to someone who lives amongst us, who knows a lot about us, and who is running to make sure that our lives here in the city of Laguna Woods are much better, safer, and better. Now, as you hear these candidates, please pay attention that we get to know not only what they believe, but also we get to see or to hear or to get to understand what the people that they're running against are doing or have done. So take that into consideration when you listen, when you ask, and what you learn. So let me tell you a little bit about Annie McCary. Annie was brought up on a farm in Alabama and came to California at the age of 17 to study nursing. She is a retired nurse practitioner with over 30 years experience in healthcare. She last worked at the Los Angeles County USC Medical Center in infection control and epidemiology. Annie has been a Laguna Woods resident for 9 years and is currently first Vice President of the Third Mutual Board of Directors and President of the African American Heritage Club. She welcomes the opportunity to continue to serve her community and to bring more diversity to the City Council. Annie, please help me, guys and girls, welcome Annie. And after she finishes, you'll have time to ask her questions too.
Thank you. Thank you, Rebecca, and thank you all for being here today. And I just got to start off by saying I am so excited just at the possibility of running for Laguna Woods City Council. This is an amazing community that we've got here. And I am just really, really excited for the opportunity to represent you. And as Rebecca mentioned, I have lived in the Laguna Woods for almost 9 years, and with over 40 years of healthcare experience. And since, one of the reasons that I'm so excited about running for City Council is, for Laguna Woods, is I'm amongst friends. We're all seniors. The majority of Laguna Woods is seniors, actually. We're all seniors. And so I feel like I've got this amazing jump start on serving the community. And I say that because my background in healthcare gives me a really, really unique way of looking at problems. For example, or situations like water, electricity, for example. As a nurse, if there is a power outage in the city, my first thought is, oh my gosh, there are people that have medical equipment that rely on electricity. So as your city council representative, I will make sure that I am in communication with the Southern California Edison or whoever the powers that be, so that we can look at issues like electricity for our senior community. As a nurse, it affords me that really, really amazing opportunity. Another reason that I'm really excited about running for city council, when I first, shortly after we retired, there was an ad in the Globe for a volunteer at Laguna Woods City Hall. So I went down and I interviewed, and I was brought on as a volunteer receptionist right in the area there, greeting residents when they came into City Hall. And I got really, really, it was a very interesting and unique experience in that I got to see what residents came into City Hall for. What were their reasons for coming into City Hall? And I was really, really curious about some of the services that are available, like taxi vouchers, And I don't know how many people know that there are taxi vouchers for doctor's appointments. There are taxi vouchers for other medical appointments and stuff. And I was really fascinated that these services were provided by the city, and even more fascinated that a lot of people probably didn't know about it. But these are the kinds of things that really piqued my interest. I'm excited to learn more about. I'm excited to be a part of a governance that cares about the citizens. I'm excited about working with my fellow council people who work well together. I work extremely well with others. Clearly, I'm on the Homeowners Association board for Third Mutual, and we have a lot of issues that come up for seniors, for us all the time. Some are related to our age, and some are just related to landscaping. Some are related to maintenance and construction. All these things that I got a bird's eye view of from working, volunteering on the Homeowners Association board, and I can actually take that information if I need it as your representative on the city council. I see residents come in and complain about the fees for permits. I'm willing to work with our council so that we can look at the fees that we charge for manor alterations. All the issues that have come up for me as a board vice president, I'm able to take that experience with me into City Hall. Another thing I'm really passionate about is transportation. Now, at some point, probably all of us are going to have to probably give up our vehicles. And we still, and independence is a great passion of mine. I value independence. And one of the things that I would like to work with council on is more clearly defined golf cart access to places like Trader Joe's and the Laguna Hills Mall. So these are issues, oh, thank you. These are issues that I would love to work with our fellow council women and men on to make sure that we get addressed. Another issue that's important to me is vector control. Most people will just think vector control is mosquitoes. With a background in healthcare, I know the importance of making sure that mosquitoes and insects are being controlled, because they have the potential for causing disease. And disease affects seniors, and I'm saying seniors because I'm one of us, in a different way than they do with other people. Another thing that I'm passionate about is transparency. And you will always know what I'm voting for. You will always know what I support and what I don't support, because I am supporting you. And so my promise to you, if I am elected, I will use my voice to speak for you. I will always listen to you. I will be transparent. I will be visible in the community, and I will work cooperatively with the other council members on your behalf. Thank you.
Okay, there's actually a comment that's related to what you were talking about earlier, which is that the taxi vouchers are expensive. It's better to go with Age Well, which is $2 a ride. Do you have a comment about that? Because I have no idea. Maybe our questioner does. I have no idea how all of that is financed.
I believe it's financed through a grant from Age Well. So, and I'm not going to say any more about it because I don't want to back myself into a hole and say something that I don't have all the information about.
Yeah, do you want to add to that? Here, let me. Yeah.
My name is Karen Hawthorne, and I've had to have immunotherapy for the entire year, and I felt I shouldn't be driving myself home from Newport Beach after having immunotherapy. So I first looked into the voucher program, and it ended up being almost as expensive as Lyft. I mean, and I paid for it. So someone else told me about this Aging Well program. And they pick you up at your house. You have to make the appointment like 4 or 5 days before. And they have, if you are using a wheelchair or you can't walk easily, they have help for you. I'm not in that situation, and the ride is $2 each way. I do tip the guy, and they always look shocked. And I have to be there like 4 hours, so they have to come back and get me, and they've always shown up. So it's something our whole life we pay taxes for, and when we need it, we should have it.
Thank you very much. Another quick question, and I think this is going to be it, and that is, what about the future of electrical vehicle recharging stations?
In Laguna Woods, wow, that's a biggie, that's a biggie, that's a biggie. And the first of all, it is infrastructure. We've got to make sure that we've got a good infrastructure to support EV charging. And that's one of the things that we are actually looking at on Third Mutual Board. But it is something that needs a lot more discussion, a lot more thought put into it, because we are, with the new laws going into effect, it's going to be pretty difficult to survive without having some EV charging, because most people our age are moving more toward the electrical vehicles. So it is definitely something that I would be in discussions with if I'm elected to the City Council. And I certainly do support EV charging stations.
Okay, guys, as you see, we bring here the best of the best. And now, last but not least, we have our own Jonathan Adler, who keeps track of state and federal legislation for the club. Without Jonathan, none of us would understand what are we voting for. So he's the perfect person to do the research and make recommendations on the ballot measures. He's going to have 15 minutes to talk, and then think of the questions you would like to ask Jonathan, and make sure you tell him to make it short.
To make it short, huh? I resemble that remark. I'll go through the propositions and handle questions at the end just to make sure that we get through all of them. Quick logistic thing, there's likely at least one or more of these sheets at your table without, not in front of a person, extra sheets. So feel free to take them at the end and hand them out to your family, your friends, your loved ones, and particularly those you don't love. Quick personal remark about Michelle Bell's candidacy. When I was litigating, doing civil litigation, the sitting commissioners were always the most capable, knowledgeable. Couple of exceptions, but it was always very good to get a commissioner to decide your matter. And you know that in the election of judges for the Superior Court, the deputy DAs almost always win, even though the court, 75% of the court business is civil. So vote always for a sitting commissioner if possible. Now, on the sheet, there's a table at the top. The top line in slightly larger letters is our Democratic Club recommendations on the 7 statewide, and the right-hand column is the Laguna Woods measure. And as you can see, there are 2 no's for the 2 gambling initiatives, 26 and 27, and the rest are yes. If you look down to the bottom line, the California Republican Party is no across the board. So it makes me feel very confident that we are with the side of the angels if the Republicans are no on everything. We're very similar to the California Democratic Party, identical to Concerned Citizens of Laguna Woods, and the other clubs that are listed there for comparison, I think we're in almost total harmony with. So, I'm going to leave the 2 gambling initiatives for the end, 26 and 27, because I think I can get through the others a little bit quicker. Proposition 1, Katrina Foley referred to it. It would put into the California Constitution the rights specifically to abortion and to contraception. Under existing law, the way it is now, abortion is now legal up to viability in California. And after viability, it's legal only if a patient's life or health is at risk. So you're obviously aware of the Supreme Court's decision in the Dobbs case overruling Roe v. Wade. And that's the reason why it's a good idea to put into the California Constitution the specific right, not just to privacy, which was put into the California Constitution a few years ago specifically, but expressly the right to abortion and to contraception. For this reason, in theory, the U.S. Supreme Court kicked the issue down to the states. But if you have been seeing the headlines, Lindsey Graham has put in a bill to ban abortion nationwide. And this has long been really a goal of the right. If and when the Republicans control both houses of Congress and the White House, so that a ban on abortion goes through nationally, hopefully the U.S. Supreme Court will implement the age-old precedent that states may provide more and higher rights than the United States Constitution or Supreme Court decisions. So it's an effort against the day if and when there's a national ban. That's the main reason why it's important. Now, let's look at Prop 28. This provides more money for art and music education in K through 12 public schools without raising taxes. That's just generally I think, a good idea. It's widely supported. I think that's really all that need be said about 28. We recommend a yes vote, no new taxes, allocates 1% of the existing school funding to arts and music education, I think including for charter schools. Prop 29, now this may look familiar because it's been on the ballot. Similar things have been on the ballot in 2018 and 2020. It regulates kidney dialysis clinics. 72% of all dialysis in California is done by two large national, maybe multinational for all I know, corporations, private corporations named DaVita and Fresenius. They have put up tons of money the last two go-rounds to avoid the regulation. And what it will do is it'll require either a physician or a nurse practitioner or a physician's assistant to be on site during a treatment. It'll also bar clinics from closing or substantially cutting services without approval of the state, and it'll require clinics to report dialysis-related infection to the state. And very importantly, clinics will be barred from refusing patients based on the source of their payment, specifically, mainly Medi-Cal and Medicare, which I understand is a practice of the private providers of dialysis services. So they have raised, again, a ton of money because a lot of their profits, future profits, are at stake. And if they repeat what they did in the last couple of cycles, they will put scare ads, fear ads, flood the TV and radio and print with TV ads where a purported patient will say, please defeat this regulation, because if it passes, the private clinics will close and we dialysis patients won't be able to get dialysis and we'll all die. So, have the ads started? Do they say basically that? Well, it didn't take too much intuition to know that they would repeat what worked in the past. And of course, they're not going to close, obviously. Some of their profits will be cut a bit to have a nurse practitioner or a physician assistant on site, and the other minor things, it'll cut a little bit out of their profits. But they're not going to close. They're not going to walk away from all that profit. You know it, and I know it. And the Proposition 29 itself bars closing without advance notice and permission of the state. So any entity that opposes Prop 29 that has to resort to that kind of fear and scare tactic, you have to really suspect. Prop 31 I'll jump to, and I'll come back to 30. Prop 31 is a referendum. A couple of years ago, the state legislature passed legislation regulating flavored tobacco products. In fact, banning certain kinds of flavored tobacco products. The new regime in California is that any entity or person can protest that, can put it on the ballot for a referendum. Alan, what's the time like? Thank you. So a yes vote, this is a referendum to challenge that law. A yes vote reaffirms and adopts and passes and puts into effect the law that was previously passed and signed by the governor. A no vote sides with the tobacco industry, which again has raised a lot of money and will fight this and will negate the law. All right, so back to Prop 30 for a moment. This imposes a 1 3/4% tax on incomes over $2 million to fund a electric vehicle incentive program and provide a network of charging stations to make it possible for them to operate throughout California, with a smaller percentage going to wildfire prevention, hardening structures against wildfires. So that is the essence of that Prop 30. We may have a question on that later. We'll get to it later, Janice, okay? And now, covering the two gambling initiatives, Props 26 and 27. Current law, California state law, bans sports betting. The U.S. Supreme Court overturned a federal ban on sports betting, allowing the states to legalize it. It's currently legal in 35 states, but not California. In addition, roulette and dice games are not lawful at tribal casinos, Native American tribal casinos. 26 and 27, everybody could not possibly miss that they are dueling with each other. Prop 26 has raised $42 million. It is backed by 24 tribes, including the major casino tribes and a coalition of other groups. Prop 27 has raised just over $100 million. It is sponsored by FanDuel, DraftKings, and MGM Betting. The fact that so much money, so what it would do, they would both legalize on-site betting. In the casinos, it would allow them to do dice and roulette games, and to do sports betting on-site at the casinos for those over 21. Prop 27 would allow that on mobile devices of all kinds, anywhere in the state, age 21 or over. It claims its title is pretty smarmy itself. It's called Legalized Sports Betting and Revenue for Homelessness Prevention Fund. When you look at the fine print, there's a percentage of not the proceeds. You know, on a sports bet, there's a cut for the house of about 10% already. Then they have expenses, then there are profits, then the creative accountants get involved before it gets to net profits. But forget about that. It is a percentage of the fees, only the fees that are paid to the states. So, so we're recommending no on both of them. There is a ton of profits at stake. A person at my table just raised the question that I've thought about for quite a long time. If there's so much money at stake, why doesn't the state of California organize it directly for the benefit of citizens? So I think that's the, then the local measure, local Laguna Woods Measure T passes an ordinance that would allow a cannabis business tax, which is necessary to be able to cite a cannabis dispensary and also to preempt any existing private business that wants to come in and put its money into its own ordinance, which they could gather signatures for and pay for, and not be as fair and neutral as the City Council has in drafting an ordinance 13 pages long to provide the structure and the amount, a range of taxes to allow a dispensary. So I'm now at the end, and what are we going to do, Alan or Rebecca, about questions? Nada, no time, catch me afterwards. There is some. Okay, so on the screen there is the table that's on here. Take the extras, give them to friends and foes alike, and thank you for your kind attention. Just remember, no on the gambling initiatives, yes on everything else.
Thank you, Jonathan. As always, you educate us and you make it easier, kinda. Thank you. Next, ladies and gentlemen, we have for you a video produced and acted by Mr. Alex Padilla, who spoke to our club. I don't know if you remember this some time ago. He came to our club when he was California's Secretary of State. When he asked if he could speak to us again, he's kind of busy. So he offered to send a special video instead. Of course, we accepted that video. And thanks to Joel Goldstein for his assistance in sharing the video with us.
Hello, Laguna Woods Democrats. It is so great to be with you today. Now, it's hard to believe that we're officially just weeks away from the midterm elections. So as we work to energize California voters in the lead up to the election, it's important that we remind voters just how much Democrats have delivered these last 2 years. Now, just a few weeks ago, we passed the historic Inflation Reduction Act to bring down healthcare premiums, prescription drug costs, and energy costs for millions of Californians. This legislation is also an historic step forward in our fight against climate change through investments that will make a real difference in our ability to reduce pollution, prevent wildfires, cut carbon emissions, and create clean jobs. But that's not all. Last year, we passed the American Rescue Plan, which delivered critical COVID-19 relief to families. The bipartisan infrastructure law, which will improve and revitalize our critical infrastructure. The CHIPS Plus Act, which will expand domestic semiconductor manufacturing. And the bipartisan Safer Communities Act, which will enact gun safety measures and make investments in the mental health of our communities. Now, these are major victories and they're resounding examples of what's possible when Democrats lead. But our work is far from over. We must protect reproductive freedoms, pass immigration reform, and continue taking on special interests to lower costs for working families. But we can't do it without your help this November. if we want to grow our majorities in Congress and continue to pass policies that lift up working families, we have to keep doing the work to ensure that Democrats come out to vote in big numbers. We need everyone because this election will be consequential for our democracy. Right-wing extremists are attacking the integrity of our elections, spreading disinformation, and winning GOP nominations in key states that will be decisive in 2024. The legitimacy of our elections and the future of our democracy are at risk. And in the face of these attacks, we have to hold those who threaten our democracy accountable. And we have to protect and expand the right to vote so that we can ensure that the will of the people is heard loud and clear. As California's former Secretary of State, I was proud to implement reforms that made our elections the most inclusive in the nation. And I'm fighting to pass those same reforms in the Senate. And although we face tough challenges, I haven't given up and I will not give up on voting rights reform. And this November, we can get one step closer to getting it done. So it's time to start making sure that our families, friends, and neighbors all have a plan to vote. And I'm confident that we can get it done because I know I can count on you and your advocacy and your support. So thank you always for your friendship and partnership, and I hope to be with you in person again soon.
So, ladies and gentlemen, how many places in all of our nation have this coming of the candidates to our home, presenting to us directly, sending videos like you would think they don't have anything else to do in their lives? I want to ask you all to give a big round of applause to Sue Deering and all her program committees who make all this possible.